this weekend, the third film in the A Quiet Place franchise dropped in theaters, so today I'm going to stop and rank all three A Quiet Place movies from the least best to the best. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your ranking of all three A Quiet Place movies. My list isn't the right list, it's just my list. And I would love to see yours, and let's get started. In least best is A Quiet Place Day One. To be perfectly clear, this movie delivered almost everything that I wanted it to deliver. I went into the film thinking this franchise lends itself really well to spin-offs because the first two movies are about one very specific family in one very specific place when there's this global threat that immediately makes you think to yourself, I wonder what's happening over there. And that's what this movie delivered. It goes from obscure farmhouse to New York City, a loud and crowded environment. And it goes from a story about a family to two individuals who are all alone. And so you get the A Quiet Place situations, the thrills, the use of sound, but we're in a different location, we've got different characters, and we have a different emotional hook. So the first two movies are very much about this family trying to keep those connections, and this movie's all about two people that are alone finding connections. And on that emotional hook, great character arcs are when you're able to match a character in their phase of life and tell a story that their character needs. This is the apocalypse where most everyone would say, I don't need that, I don't want that, that's very bad for me. And they find the context where this character, Lupita Nyong'o's character, needs this adventure to really fulfill certain things in her life and give a satisfying conclusion, despite it being the apocalypse. And of the A Quiet Place movies, it's the one that I think maybe has the most artistic flair to it, where whether the use of the music cues or the way that certain shots will linger on imagery that finds something beautiful in the midst of all the chaos, there's just something very artistic about all of it. And also, with the nature of the journey of our two lead characters, it pauses to find all these reflective moments in life that are very profound in a way that's very different from what was great about the first two films. Now, where this one I think let itself down just a little bit is where in the third movie in the series, and I think at this point in time, you want to start learning a little bit more about the aliens. Hey, I want to keep mystery, intrigue. I don't need to know everything. Don't over-explain everything. But we didn't really learn much of anything new in this movie, and I think that held it back from being as good as perhaps it might have been. Likewise, I don't think the thrills are quite as effective in this movie, and some of that is simply because in the first two movies, you had children and a pregnant woman in peril. And there's just something about that children, pregnancy, such vulnerable stages of life, that it amplifies the nature of a story like this. And so when you see two people, late 20s, 30s, running around, it's not quite as impactful, but still a great addition to the franchise. I got almost everything I wanted out of this film. Our runner-up, A Quiet Place Part 2, and I just thought this was a great follow-up to the first film, where the original was so intentionally very small. It's all about this one family at their house in this very specific, very vulnerable moment. And you can't copy the emotional impact of what the first film did. And if they tried to do that, it would have felt hollow and fake. So instead, it went in the opposite direction and tried to tell a story that expanded the world, where we're on a quest, we're traveling, and we're seeing how all these different people have reacted to this apocalypse that's taken place. So you have Cillian Murphy's character who's all alone. You see the people that have gone crazy. You see people that have found stability in all of this. And it just feels like the world gets bigger. And that was, I think, the perfect direction to go. And the other thing that the movie does really well is continues to deliver these, edge of your seat thrills using sound, but it has all this cross-cutting, intercutting between two different storylines, and it's able to pace it just right where you can go back and forth between two locations, two different scenarios, build tension on both of them at the same time, and build to these crescendos that pay off together. And so the story is able to move very quickly, and you feel tension and advancement of the plot line without it feeling like we're pausing to find out what's going on over there. Just does a really nice job of the way that it builds tension in two locations parallel to each other. And likewise, it has a hopefulness in it. It's a movie about the worst of circumstances where a family is in this terrible, vulnerable state. They come across someone that is so broken, jaded, and cynical, and somehow they tell a hopeful story out of that, where Cillian Murphy's character is so different from Krasinski's in the first film, and that's what makes him interesting, that he's given up at the beginning. And through this family, through this adventure, he discovers himself again. And he's that better version of himself and is able to give hope to the world as a whole. There's something very profound. But coming in at number 1, A Quiet Place. And I just think this is one of the great horror thrillers of the last 20 years. Its basic premise about these creatures that attack noise lends itself very well to interesting world building as well as edge of your seat thrills, where you jump forward a year into this apocalypse and you think, how would people live? Who would survive if you're not able to talk and noise creates danger? And so there's just interesting world building that immediately comes out of that, and it makes for a fantastic theatrical experience because you have these sequences that are very simple. Walk across a room, as simple as that, and you watch it in a theater full of people, and any noise in that room with these aliens about freaks out a whole room full of people, where you hear people, as soon as a glass gets knocked over, you feel the reaction of a room. And so it's a premise that inherently lends itself really well to this type of thriller, a great theatrical experience. Another thing the movie is really good at is revealing these little images that in the moment don't mean much, but the audience knows it's going to come back into play in the future, where a child picking up batteries, a nail being pulled up, dripping water. We know something the characters don't know. And that creates this lingering sense of dread and anticipation of something horrible happening. It's very effective at that, and it does it all throughout the entire movie. But what elevates the film to that next level is it doesn't just rely on the gimmick of people needing to remain quiet. It still decides to do the hard work of building out characters that you care about and this emotional arc and journey for a family, where it takes the end of the world and it makes it all about this family losing one child and the choices that each character made that led to that moment and the regret that each of them feels. So in this horrible situation, you're watching a family trying to rebuild their love, care, concern for one another. So you care deeply about them while it being very effective as this thriller. That it's the type of movie that raises questions in your mind about where the aliens come from, how does this work, and you're curious about them, but you don't need an answer to all of those for the film to work because you're so invested in the specific situation that you are in with these characters. And that's when you've made a great horror thriller. It's not just entertaining. It doesn't just put you on the edge of your seat. It makes you care about the characters. So for me, this movie comes in at number 1 in a franchise where I think right now they've just got 3 great horror thrillers in here. The original, I do think, has the most emotional punch, so it comes in at number 1. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out this playlist or this video right over here. I don't know what it's recommending to you or what I'm going to recommend to you, but it's probably a really good one. Hey, thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV.